I'm here to talk about AI, like every other keynote presenter at every other event this week. But before I talk about AI, I wanted to talk about this article from 2016. It's called Welcome to Airspace. So this journalist for The Verge had just done quite a lot of travel, and everywhere that he went, he stayed in an Airbnb. And what he notices that these Airbnbs all over the world, from Brooklyn to Birmingham, from Berlin to Bangkok, they all started to look very similar. He called it this international Airbnb style. And in this article, he went on to coin the phrase airspace, which is this kind of Airbnb kind of aesthetic. And if you've ever stayed in an Airbnb, you'll know exactly what I mean. The article itself was, was quirky, it was interesting, but it's what happened afterwards that got really interesting, which is another reporter, a completely separate reporter for The Guardian in London, had read this piece and had made a similar observation about coffee shops. So he had noticed that coffee shops, his local coffee shop in Shoreditch in London, was very much like any coffee shop all over the UK, which is kind of like coffee shops all over the Western world. Chalkboard menus, kind of red brick walls, Edison light bulbs, always Edison light bulbs, leather aprons, bearded baristas, you know the vibe. And then someone kind of pulled at that string a little bit. They said, well, hang on a second, it's not just coffee shops and Airbnbs. If you zoom out a little bit, it's also, oh, my clicker's not working. It's also cities. Cities are all starting to conform to a very similar design. Kind of these, Barangaroo is a perfect example. It's beautiful development, but it could be in any city anywhere in the world. It's not unique to Sydney. These big glass kind of monuments and towers. And then someone else said, well, it's actually not just the cities themselves, it's the inner city suburbs. So these are referred to as 5x5s. And to be fair, this journalist did a little bit of digging, and he realized that this is because of the consolidation of the property development industry over the last 20, 30 years. So we've now only got a handful of property developers, and they're essentially reusing the same plans to be as cost efficient as possible. But it just means that the same plans get put forward, and ultimately we end up living in the same apartments. Then someone else said, well, actually, cars all look the same. Who here drives a car? Show hands. Who here drives a car that's either white, silver, or grey metallic? Yes. Everyone. It's not just the colour of the car and the fact that 80% of cars are SUVs in Australia. It's more than that. It's actually called the wind tunnel effect, right? So we introduced wind tunnels back in the 1980s. And over the last 40, 50 years, what's essentially happened is our obsession with building a car that's 100% aerodynamic means that we've kind of knocked the edges, kind of the distinctiveness of cars. So the new BYD looks like the old BMW. A Porsche looks like a Hilux. And in what world does that make sense? But it's not just the cars, it's the car brands. In 2021, this is coined blanding, because all these car brands were kind of being paired back to something quite neutral, predictable, very safe. And then there's Instagram Face. So Instagram Face, that term was coined in 2016. And it was due to a convergence of three different factors. Number one was the rise of platforms, no surprise, Facetune and Instagram were called out. Number two was the falling cost of Botox in the US. Random. And number three was Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian was called out as being patient zero for the Instagram face. But what it means is that female celebrities are all kind of aspiring to this same aesthetic, this kind of cat eyes, puffy cheeks. So the thing goes with movies. Over the last 15 years, 90% of the top 20 grossing movies in any given year is now a prequel or a sequel. It's not just that we're remaking the same movies, it's the way that they're even teased to us. So what's happening here is that Hollywood just goes through rounds and rounds and rounds of testing, and you ultimately kind of end up with something that kind of plays into all the usual cliches. I came from Melbourne, and I walked past W.H. Smith at the airport, and I looked at the non-fiction section, and this is what it looks like. The highest selling book last year, Atomic Habits. The year before that, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and a whole range of that. We're obsessed with self-help. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that there's a whole bunch of really weird reasons why things kind of converge. It could be because of the rising cost of land or the falling cost of Botox. It could be because of wind tunnels, government regulation, the rise of digital platforms, or it could just be Kim Kardashian's fault. I'm not sure. But there is undeniably this idea of cultural homogenization, that we live in a world that's culturally, visually, kind of the same in a way that it wasn't maybe 20, 30 years ago. There's this kind of gravitational pull towards the center, towards the median of everything. I don't know if you've heard, but AI it's a big thing. And ChatGPT has kind of entered exit velocity. So this time last year, ChatGPT had 150 million active weekly users. Today it's north of 800 million. And Sam Altman is pretty confident of getting to 1 billion this side of Christmas. Here in Australia, Microsoft did some fantastic research about 6 months ago. They surveyed 31,000 office workers, and they showed that 3 in 4 Aussie office workers are using ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, or Claude in their jobs on a regular basis. So daily or near daily. But 80% of workplace use is referred to as shadow AI. I hate the term shadow AI because it implies that people are doing something kind of nefarious. I don't think they are. I much prefer the term BYO AI, bring your own AI. They're kind of just going it alone. The underlying philosophy of business for the last 10 years has been do more with less. And these people are seeing this technology as an opportunity to do that, to get work-life balance. However, I put it to you that there are some challenges with BYO AI. Some of these challenges are super obvious, and some of them are far less understood. So let me talk about the really obvious ones. Number one, data leakage. I didn't used to think this was a big problem until about 8 weeks ago, when ChatGPT and Claude now allow you, within 2 clicks, to connect your free version of those tools into your Outlook, into your CRM, into your proprietary business knowledge. And I think this is going to become a big problem if there isn't some governance around it. Number two, the technology hallucinates. Who knew? Not the people at Deloitte Australia. Does it piss anyone else off that they haven't given the full $440,000 back? They've only given 25% of it back. I'm like... Number three is about productivity gains, or rather uncaptured productivity gains. So let's say that everyone is using this technology in a really responsible and effective, ethical and efficient manner. Because they're going it alone, it's very difficult for you as a business to identify what's working and to scale those successes, or what's not working, and to learn from those things. The productivity gains stay with the individual. So when people are reporting 20, 30, 40% productivity gains, time saved every week, that time stays with them. Now, you might have some really fantastic employees that reinvest that time back into the business, but given that we work from home 2 or 3 days a week, you might not. So we've kind of ended up in a situation where businesses are taking on all of the risk, but without any real reward. But these are the really obvious challenges that you can read about on LinkedIn anytime you want. I want to unpack these less obvious challenges. To understand this first one, you need to step back and ask the question, how are people using this technology? And this is a question that I got a little bit obsessed about in 2024. And the way that I thought about this was, it's not just about prompt engineering or context engineering. It's also about where are they using this technology? And so I had this kind of, 1 to 5, like 0 being people still aren't using this. I suspect this is kind of in the single digits today. Level 1, the classic use case for these people is just rewriting emails. I want you to rewrite this in a more professional, more punchy, more concise manner, which is kind of low value, but it's also low risk. Level 2 is this idea that they're now sharing business documentation and not knowing where it's potentially hallucinating. So here is an interesting fact for you. There was some research done recently, and it showed that when you share a spreadsheet with ChatGPT with formatted data, so you put formatting over it to make it easier for us to interrogate, when you do that with ChatGPT, it hallucinates more than 50% of the time. So when your analyst has come back to you and said that they found this killer insight, you might want to push back and validate, because that insight probably has no basis in the data or in the world that we live in. But recently I've realized that this is not the right way to think about this technology. This is a very kind of a rational where and how. There's a better way to look at this, which is, why are people using it? And you essentially have 2 different groups of people. You have what I call AI outsourcers and AI augmented. And I put it to you that about 90% of people fit in the AI outsourcers. It's about minimizing effort, and it's about maximizing speed. It's getting in and out of the platform as quickly as possible. The idea of pushing back, of iterating, of validating, of fact-checking, no. I may ask to do more with less. Therefore, it's speed, speed, speed. And I was thinking about this for a while. Like, why is this happening? Why is it that we're almost 3 years of this technology and people are still using it in this way? And then my wife pointed out to me that most people don't love what they do. Most people will trade effort for ease. Most people will take the path of least resistance. I don't know if you've noticed, but this technology is unbelievably easy. But has it ever pushed back and said, sod off, you're being lazy, go figure that out for yourself? Or has it ever said anything other than, that was an amazing prompt? What a fantastic question. I'm so glad you asked. But in all seriousness, Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize winner for his work on thinking, once said that thinking is to humans as swimming is to cats. We can do it, we just prefer not to. Which lands us on our 4th challenge, which is outsource thinking. It's okay to outsource your thinking sometimes, just not all of the time, because what very quickly happens within about a 3 to 6 month period is that your own expertise, your own judgment, your own taste, your own critical thinking becomes blunted by this. But there's a 5th challenge, and I put it to you, and I put it to this room, that this one is bigger than the other 4 combined. This is a particular challenge for both marketers and people that work in the professional services industry. And given that this is a room of independent agencies, that would be you guys. When I ask people, how does this technology work? They'll say something like, it just predicts the next word in a sentence. It's just autocomplete. And to tell you the truth, it's a pretty good definition. That's what it's doing. So as an example, if the sentence is, the actress that played Rose in the 1997 classic is named, what it's going to do is it's going to have a whole bunch of names in its training data, and statistically it's going to choose one of those names. So in this case, with 65% confidence, it's going to choose Kate. And then it's going to rerun that again, and probably with 99% confidence, it's going to say Winslet. This is why when you ask ChatGPT, Gemini, DeepSeek, Copilot, Claude to pick a random number between 1 and 50, most of the time it'll say 27. Now, early days of this technology, because of the world that we live in, there was a whole bunch of conspiracy theorists and some pretty weird and wacky ideas around this. And then someone stepped in and said, no. They've all got the same training data. And statistically speaking, 27 is the most likely number between 1 and 50 at random. But if you step back a second and think about what this means, you realize that it's something of a machine of averages. And I was listening to a podcast a few weeks ago, and I thought this was really nicely articulated. It said there's a gravitational pull here that shouldn't be underestimated. AI thrives on pattern recognition and drawing from vast back catalogues of what has worked before. The danger is that this can subtly nudge decisions towards the median, towards the safe center of what the data says is like to work. But the best work often comes from breaking patterns, not reinforcing to them. I put it to you that the job of marketing is not to blend in, but to stand out. If you wanted to build a bridge, the safe center of everything that we know about building bridges is a pretty good place to start. If you're a lawyer building a case, the safe center of everything we know about that, precedence, is a pretty good place. If you work in procurement and you want to know how much an ERP system costs, the safe center of everything that we know about ERP systems is a good place to start. If you're a marketer and if you're a marketing agency and everything is based around differentiation and distinctiveness, this is not a good place to be. So what I'm saying is that we are shifting, we're accelerating from cultural to cognitive homogenization. It's not just the world around us, it's the way that we think, the way that we talk, the way we communicate, the way that we create now. And if you doubt me, go on to LinkedIn. 95% of LinkedIn now is just that really annoying ChatGPT tone. It's not just the M dashes, because some people think, oh, if I take the M dashes out, no one will know. It's that rhyme, it's that tone. I've one person in my network, his name is David, he works at Pathfinder, and he does not do it, and it just stands out. The spelling mistakes, warts and all, and it's so refreshing in a way that it wouldn't have been 2 years ago. So, Beck's going to kill me because I've got a minute left. You're probably thinking to yourself, wow, God, it's not ideal, is it? And you're probably all thinking, Jesus, what are we going to do about this? Surely someone's got a plan, right? Because everyone's talking about this, every keynote, everything on LinkedIn, everything on the trade press, every business has got a plan, right? Right? Well, I've been lecturing for RMIT on 2 different courses over the last 18 months, and I've spoken to 800 different working professionals across every industry in Australia. These are senior people working in big businesses. And one of the things that I make a point of asking them is, what's your business doing with this? And 99% of the answer is, and you're like, yeah, it's absolutely bonkers. And then they'll back it up with, no, it's all right. Lauren, she ran a lunch and learn on Tuesday. Yeah, it was good. But we haven't seen any uplift yet. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, this is the most disruptive, the most transformative technology we've ever created. 3 in 4 of us are using it every day. And there's just little to no management, guidance, governance, expectations, training, change management, reimagination of work. It's just Lauren and her lunch and learn. There are many reasons why Lauren is being set up to fail. But if I just kind of zoom out, I think the big reason is a lunch and learn is about how do we get people to use a tool. Lunch and learns are fine if you've just adopted Asana or Workday or Salesforce. That's not what this is. This is akin to giving every single person in your business an extra 50 IQ points. The question that you're trying to solve for is, how do we make people feel safe and excited to evolve the way that they work? This is why we exist. We've been on a bit of a journey over the last 12 months, exclusively thinking about these technologies, not AI more broadly. ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, and Claude. Anything outside of that, go somewhere else. But if you want to embed this technology, if you want to shift from surface level adoption to meaningful, measurable, real impact, that's what we're in the business of. We've been very, very fortunate to work with big marketing and media agencies, 3 IMAA members, which I didn't put on the slide because I didn't think it was fair. And we've learned a little bit. And I just want to share 3 very quick insights. Insight number 1 is change starts at the top. You are asking people to accelerate towards an uncertain future. Deep down, a lot of people think that this technology is going to replace them. That's all they're being told. And you are saying to them, accelerate. You could at least take the time to explain why. Take a beat and ask them, why are we doing this? What strategic vision? What does success look like? How do we measure it? It's not necessarily just an efficiency play. It's not just do more with less, hopefully. It can be culture, it can be strategic, it can be performance. It's generally a blend of different signals that you're going to be able to track and measure the impact of this. Number 2 is that this is a reflection of us. This is because we take the path of least resistance. We don't take the time to push back, to iterate, to validate, to build on the ideas. People who do actually push back, people who augment it, actually have a very different conversation. They never talk about saving time or it feeling like cheating or being worried about the future. Totally different conversation. They talk about enhancing and expanding on their existing expertise. But no training session, even our training session, no training session changes anything. I've learned this the hard way. I set out 12 months ago to go beyond training and into business transformation to genuinely change a business and the way that they work. And I naively thought that you get there through a 6-hour workshop. You can't. You have to back up the training with workflow redesign. You have to sit with individuals and you have to ask them exactly what you do day to day. Now let's reimagine and redesign and embed the technology in that. And let's give you a framework to track adoption and to measure the impact of that. That's when this gets really, really powerful. Just realized I had 4 lessons and I said 3, didn't I? Okay, Beck's literally going to kick me off now. So last slide. Thank you so much for coming and hope you enjoyed the talk.